Ethics and Hacking, Right versus Wrong, and the Areas in Between. My name is Jake Thompson, and the date is September 15th, 2024. Ethics versus Law. Ethics and law overlap but are not the same. Ethics refer to morality, while laws refer to rules that are enforceable. In cybersecurity, ethics are usually referring to respect for privacy, integrity, and transparency, while laws provide the legal framework within these principles. As you can see, I've included an infographic on the right showing a bit where laws and ethics differ and some common ground they show. As you can see, laws are rules that are usually written down and include punishment in the form of fines, imprisonment. It says execution here. That's a very extreme example, but I guess it does happen. Ethics, on the other hand, are more like guidelines. They're unwritten rules or unwritten codes, so to speak. They may include some kind of informal punishment, such as social isolation. If we're talking in the world of cybersecurity, if it gets out that you've done something very unethical, even though it's not illegal, and you are looking for a new job, let's say this employer finds out about this very unethical thing you did, you may not get the job just because what you did is considered legal. They may isolate you just as if you were being socially isolated. However, both provide guidance on how to behave and keep society stable. Let's talk a little bit about one of the gray areas, in my opinion, which is ethical hacking and civil disobedience. Civil disobedience is essentially breaking the law to protest or bring attention to injustices. This is one of those areas where ethics and the law may fight each other a little bit. Ethical hackers break laws to expose vulnerabilities and promote security improvements, thus choosing ethics and morality over the written law for the better good. A prime example is a cybersecurity expert conducting unauthorized penetration testing to reveal a weakness in the system. This is technically illegal, but it is performed with the goal of improving overall security, and it has ethical reasoning behind breaking the law. They are not doing it for personal gain or anything unethical like that. Speaking of unethical, let's talk about the other side of the coin. Unethical hacking and the consequences. Unethical hacking is using any means to gain unauthorized access. This will lead to fines and possible imprisonment, and can be misdemeanors or felonies. Laws such as the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act criminalize unauthorized access to computer systems and data. Some common examples of common cybercrimes and their consequences. Unauthorized access can lead you with a misdemeanor or a felony. In the misdemeanor form, you're going to end up paying up to $5,000, and you may spend a year in prison. On the other hand, though, if you are found with felonious unauthorized access, that could be up to $250,000 and 10 years in prison. Identity theft is another common cybercrime. That's up to 15 years, up to $250,000, and you're paying the restitution for the victims. So you're probably going to pay a lot more than $250,000. Another common one is cyber espionage, which can lead you up to 15 years in the clink and up to $500,000, depending on the info. Of course, like we talked about earlier, there's some gray areas. One of the most common causes of these gray areas is that legislation lags behind technological growth. It's just impossible for our legislation system to keep up with the growth behind these technological advances. Due to the nature of legislation, laws struggle to keep up with tech, causing some gray areas. One example of technology taking a giant leap and leaving the legislation system in the dust would be blockchain. A good example of blockchain would be the use of Bitcoin. Blockchain technology is a great example because it's not considered a legal currency to use Bitcoin, which uses the blockchain system. So many laws can be avoided by using Bitcoin as a currency. Another example, or a better example of this would be, let's say that online gambling is illegal in a state. Many people are using Bitcoin to gamble online and then changing that Bitcoin into dollars afterwards. Therefore, they're not breaking any laws. They're using a gray area to get around the law. I would personally say that's unethical and will probably be illegal soon, but that's a good example of a gray area being exploited. It is essential for cyber professionals to use their ethical and moral compass to navigate these gray areas. As you can see on the right, I included a graph of Moore's law, which is showing the number of transistors on microchips, and you can see it's doubling every single year. It's not quite there, but it is almost exponential growth. And we have talked about the legislation system in our country before. It can take from weeks to months to even years to get laws passed. There's just no possible way to keep up with this kind of growth. And I know that the number of transistors on microchips isn't a perfect scenario to show technological growth, but it's about as close as I can get, and the graph shows exactly what I'm talking about with the massive boom of technology that we are experiencing. All right, what's the point? Well, ethics and law are closely related. They serve different purposes and are not always perfectly aligned. Understanding what civil disobedience is and how it differs from straight-up disobedience is important to understanding ethical hacking. Although there are times where civil disobedience may be acceptable or even necessary, it is important we understand that there are major criminal penalties for those who choose to break the law in the cyber world. As professionals in this field, we must rely on our moral and ethical compass to help us navigate the many gray areas we are likely to find ourselves in. Thank you very much.